right, folks, welcome back here. Michael Cohen on the Sports Talk Nation. We're going to turn the page just a bit. I know we've had a lot of talk about the New York Jets head coaching search, but we're taking a little bit of a break from that, thankfully. And we're going to get back onto some baseball because finally we had some baseball news kind of break last week, and it's still very prevalent right now because the Mets kind of made a decision, although there is always the window for a possibility of reunion regarding Pete Alonso. So let's get right into that right now. So the New York Mets kind of put their foot down, and they really have to put their foot down with regards to Pete Alonso. This has been a situation where both of these sides have been stuck in contract negotiations for, well, almost practically 2 years. You go back to 2023 when the Mets offered Alonso a 7-year, $150 million contract, and he rejected that. And ever since that point, he has planned to go to free agency. He took it to free agency, and since that point, the Mets have tried very hard to try to re-sign him, but both sides are very far apart on any kind of deal. And I understand that there are a slew of Met fans who want Pete Alonso back and want him badly back because, hey, look, he's a homegrown guy. He had that big postseason that we saw in October, the big postseason home run in the wild card series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Of course, you're going to want to have him back from that standpoint. But the Mets have done everything they could. I understand Steve Cohen has deep pockets, but at the same time, give him a little bit of credit here from the standpoint that he's kind of pulled back a little bit from the Steve Cohen who would say, screw it, I'm just going to throw money at everything and see what happens, which he tried to do with Scherzer and Verlander. That didn't work. Which he tried to do with the Carlos Correa deal that blew up in his face when Correa didn't pass a physical. So he's taken the step back and, yes, playing hardball, if you want to say playing hardball, but giving the baseball people, David Stearns, the opportunity to make the decisions. Okay, I understand that the Mets spent like almost $750 million on Juan Soto. A crazy, ridiculous amount of money. I get it. Juan Soto is a different kind of ball player. Just you take a look at the reputation, you take a look at the numbers and the history and the age, a different ball player than Pete Alonso is at this point in his career. Just a completely different player. Juan Soto's, 26 years old. He's, just going into the prime of his career, is a big-time slugger, can, do a lot of different things. Really a 5-tool player. Granted, the defense is a bit of an issue, but as far as hitter, it's all there. As far as Juan Soto's concerned, Alonso, the thing that concerns you with Alonso is that it's felt like over the last few years, if you look at the numbers and you look at the performance, things have ticked down over the last couple of years, and that's really played against them. And it's not like the Mets are, just having their own negative opinion of Alonso. He can't seem to get a contract right now from anybody. Now, there are certainly teams that are interested. We've heard the Blue Jays are interested at one point. We've heard the Giants have been interested, the Cubs, the Mariners. There are teams that are interested, but his price is too steep for anybody. And you just take a look at first baseman. The highest paid first baseman in baseball, Freddie Freeman, not counting Bryce Harper, who, when he signed his contract with the Phillies, Harper was supposed to be an outfielder. Harper comes in at $27.5 million a year. Freddie Freeman, the more natural first baseman, comes in at $25.1 million a year annually. Okay, after that, it's Paul Goldschmidt with who was making $25 million with the Cardinals, and then Matt Olson, who was making $22 million last year with the Braves, and then you got Alonso. Now, is Pete Alonso better than Freddie Freeman at this point in his career? I can't say that. And you look at the numbers. I was doing some digging in the numbers, and let's just take a look at this. Obviously, the numbers that stand out for Alonso: hit 217 2 years ago, 217, 318 /9 in 2023. Last year, a 240 batting average, 329 on base percentage. The strikeouts have been going up every year in his career. 172 Ks last year. And RBIs, of course, are down to 88 last season. And then when you really go deep into the numbers, let's take a look at situational hitting. When the count is 2-2, Alonso hit only 217 last year when the count was 2-2. When the count was 3-1, he hit only 111, and then it was a full count, hit only 169 with 35 strikeouts. So you compare that, let's just say, to Freddie Freeman, who again is making $25 million a year, highest paid first baseman, natural first baseman in baseball. He hit 288 on a full count in regular season last year. 288. And not to mention what he did in the World Series, being the MVP of the World Series, locked up the Hall of Fame for himself with that home run he had in Game 1 of the World Series, obviously. Is Pete Alonso at that kind of level? I can't say he is. And I'm a big Pete Alonso fan. I am a huge Pete Alonso fan. I would love to see the Mets bring him back. And when you consider the body of work through his career, every year he's a 30 home run hitter. The postseason we saw from Alonso last year, homegrown guy, big presence in the clubhouse. Yes, you want to have Pete Alonso back on this team, and his presence behind Juan Soto is going to be paramount to any kind of success the Mets are going to have this year. But I could understand why the Mets have to be smart in how they dole out the money here, because just based on his track record, when you dig in the numbers, can you really, is he worth more than 25, 23, $24 million a year? Is he worth, upwards of $30 million a year, which it sounds like what he's looking for? I mean, he's rejected the 7-year, $150 million deal, which would have been about $20.5 million a year. He came to the Mets and said, hey, look, we'll give you a 3-year deal with options or opt-out years, meaning that if he has a good year, he can opt out. If he has a bad year, he probably won't opt out, and the Mets have to, pay a guy who has a bad year, which forced the Mets to counter saying, hey, look, we'll give you 3 years straight with an opt-out, but it'll be at 70, 68 to 70, let's just say $70 million. That's about $23 million a year. That would put him over Olsen. That would put him about $2 million short of Freddie Freeman, $23 million a year. He rejected that. At some point, you have to understand where the Mets are coming from in that regard. So, at the moment, as we are speaking right now, it appears the Mets are moving on from Pete Alonso, which is unfortunate because, again, big clubhouse guy. Hits, pretty much can write him down in pen for 30 home runs a year, but it's the other little things in production, getting on base, moving guys over, driving runners in, that haven't been, with the exception of the playoffs last year, haven't really been working too much in regular season play. And when you've offered him $23 million a year already and he rejects it, what else can you do? So we'll see. Maybe the two sides do come back together because there's things that are going on. The Blue Jays have been linked to Alonso because there's been talk, rumors, speculation that the Mets could be looking in at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the Blue Jays first baseman. Vlad is 25 years old. He hit over 300. I think he hit 323 last year. He's a 30 home run hitter in his own right. I mean, the Mets would love to, and have tried to check in on possible trades with the Blue Jays for Vlad Jr. because he is going to be a free agent next year. And of course, at 25 years old, with that kind of pedigree, yes, the Mets would have to. I would think they're not going to want to be like the Yankees were with Juan Soto. They're going to want to try to work out a long-term deal if they can make that trade happen. They're going to have to give up a lot of pieces, maybe like a Luis Angel Acuna. They're going to have to make up a big sacrifice to get that kind of player, but they've dabbled in that. At the same time, according to Ben Nicholson-Smith, the Blue Jays and Guerrero are actively negotiating an extension, meaning the Mets landing a trade might be wishful thinking. So there's always the chance that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. ain't going nowhere from Toronto, and that the Blue Jays are going to do everything they can to keep him. Not to mention the Blue Jays just made a deal citing Anthony Santander to a 5-year, $90 million contract. This is a guy who hit 40 home runs last year. And they're going to put him in the order there with Guerrero, so that's an impetus for Guerrero to maybe want to stay with the Blue Jays. That's a heck of a player to go get there. So maybe that opens the door for the Mets and Alonso to say, hey, look, let's just come back together here and figure this out. Maybe Alonso finally takes that 3-year deal at $23 million a year. Maybe they shorten it. Maybe they make it to 2 years at $23.5 million. I don't know. but there's still a sliver of hope, a chance, an opportunity for these two sides to get back together. If they do not, again, I think the Mets are going to have to get creative. They've already started to do that. Bringing back Jesse Winker is a huge plus for them. Again, another player who was very electric in that clubhouse, and I'm glad the Mets brought him back. They go out and they sign A.J. Minter to a 2-year contract. Now, I know he's not Tanner Scott, the closer who just signed with I believe he signed with the L.A. Dodgers on a 4-year deal. But A.J. Minter is a left-handed pitcher. He's pitched in the division with the Atlanta Braves and is coming off a year where he had a 2.62 ERA. That's a good pickup. Left-handed reliever coming out of the bullpen in front of Edwin Diaz. The Mets need help in that bullpen. So you sign him, and there is still a plethora of players, and it seems like this is becoming a problem every year in Major League Baseball. There is a plethora of players out there who are still quality players for free agency. Let's say the Mets decide to move on from Alonso, and maybe let's just say, just for the heck of it, in addition to moving Vientos over, maybe they go out there and they get signed Alex Bregman to a contract. That would certainly put Bregman at third, and you would have a power batting Bregman, who again is right now in his 30s, early 30s, has World Series experience, postseason experience, good player. With the Houston Astros, you put him at third and you have Vientos at first. That sounds good. Maybe you go out there and get really creative as you try to manufacture and recreate that kind of production from Alonso. Maybe you sign, risky move here, as I say this, a Anthony Rizzo and a Justin Turner as a possible platoon at first, and you leave Vientos at third. Those are just a couple of ideas that I would have. I also would like to see the Mets bring back Jose Iglesias, obviously, for certainly backup role at second base, and of course his presence in the clubhouse. He was the kickstarter of the whole OMG thing. I think his presence is paramount to bring back as well if you are the New York Mets. So they have to get creative. I'm really curious to see how David Stearns and Steve Cohen and this Met front office are going to work this out now. Can they and Alonso eventually find a way to come back to the table? It's possible, especially with what's going on in Toronto, with the Blue Jays possibly looking to extend Guerrero, signing Santander. That might be the opportunity for those two sides to meet again, but we'll see how things play out. Folks, leave your thoughts below. How do you feel about the Mets? I think right now they are making the right move, playing a little bit of hardball, considering they made some good offers to Pete Alonso. We'll talk to you next time right here on Sports Talk Nation.